Turn the mics on. I just did, Dorothy. They were off. The mic's on.
Oh, okay.
All right, I've been talking to thin air. Good morning, everyone online. We now have a quorum, and we're going to get the meeting started. I'll get to order, and we'll start with attendance around the room, and then Dorothy will poll people online. So start us off, Dorothy, please.
Dorothy Banishevsky, Facilities Construction.
Michael Guida, CORC.
Joseph Sanchez, Chief Operating Officer.
It's been a while, huh, Joe?
Yeah. You looked that way. I was like, okay.
Patricia Morales, Deputy General Counsel.
David Dolan, Chief of Facilities Management.
David Porter, CORC.
Barbara Myers, Construction Purchasing.
Jan Porter.
Bill Hugel, CORC.
John Cheshire, CORC.
Over here in the corner, sir.
T. Olga, Construction Facilities.
John Levinson, Rail Enterprises, representing Ziskovich and Wharton Smith.
Carol Carter, Wharton Smith.
Tom Jacob Eisen, Wharton Smith.
George Perez, Facilities Construction.
Bob Bliss, Office of Inspector General.
James Campbell, Chief Operating Officer.
Rosanna Patricia, Netta Architects.
Jacob Katz, Pirtle Construction. James Farrell, Facilities Construction.
Park Rupp, Facilities Construction. Ian Nestler, PGAL.
Camp Fells, PGAL.
Okay, go ahead, Dorothy, get us online, people.
Okay, we have Tom Berger,
There.
Virginia Ferris.
By the way, I'm CORC.
Virginia, are you there? Maybe she can't get her mic working.
Probably. And we have our newest CORC member, Francesca Wernish.
Here.
And Tragic just
Tragic
joined.
joined us as well.
Welcome, Francesca.
Tragic.
Thanks.
Okay. Tragic, we got you. Yep, thank you. And Michael Gelfand. Okay.
Michael Gelfand and Virginia. There you go. We got your mic, Virginia.
Virginia, you're now muted again.
Thank you. I'm here.
All right, I have nothing to report on Chairman's report. My next question, anyone having a conflict with anything today or has been approached by any lobbyist that they need to disclose? Work members. Hearing none, we will move on. CORC report, Dorothy, that process still seems to be working nicely. Thank you for taking care of that. Public comments, any general public comments? Not hearing any. All right.
And you briefly touched on in attendance. We do have a new CORC member this month who has now been brought on. Ms. Wernish, welcome, and she will do all of our voting membership.
Okay, very good. I think you've been somewhat kind of trained in what we do and how we do it, Francesca, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Dorothy will poll everyone online when we get to the voting part and the people in the room. That's how we've worked it since we went virtual, and we make sure we get the vote recorded at that point.
Sounds good.
Feel free to fire away with questions. It probably will be like a 6-month learning curve.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you.
For lots of new members that have come on. I think Virginia is now our longest surviving member. I think I'm second.
Oh, the way you put that, surviving. I know. I'm with you, Virginia. I don't know.
I've been on for 21 years and Virginia's even longer than that. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks for
let's get
having
down
me.
to consent agenda. That's what we're up to next. FC1.
Yes.
That was John?
Yes.
FC2.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Virginia. Was that Virginia?
Yes.
Okay. And Michael Guida. Okay. FC3. FC4.
Yes.
John, and I also wanted it.
I did too.
Okay. FC5. FC6.
Yes.
Who is that, Michael?
Michael Guida.
Yeah, Guida.
Mike.
FC7. PC1.
Go back to FC7. I'd like to pull FC7.
Okay. PC1 was okay. PC2. I wanted that one. PC3. PC4.
Yes.
PC5. All right, Virginia, we're ready for your motion.
I wasn't sure if anyone pulled the 4 and 5 because they kind of go along with,
I'll pull that.
yeah, they go along with the other one PC. Trying to find it.
So Mike, Guida, you want PC5?
Yeah, just some clarification.
Yeah, we can pull 5 and 6 just because I think they go along with the other one. All right, I move the items not pulled.
Hold on.
Before we, yeah,
Gelfand says, it looks like Michael Gelfand was trying to speak, but
Michael?
we couldn't hear him.
Can't hear you, Michael.
He typed in a message that said, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? And so I suspect he may want to discuss something he wants to pull before we make the motion to
Okay.
approve those that will go on consent.
Okay. No, we cannot hear you, Michael.
While Michael's figuring this out, can I really quickly ask, when no one says yes to one of these, what does that mean?
That means that we will vote coming up on accepting the non-pulled items as being accepted without comment, discussion, or disagreement.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Michael,
Mr.
2-1.
said 1, 4, and 5, PC 1, 4, and 5. So we already got 4 and 5. He'd like to have PC 1.
I'm not sure what 1, 2, 3, and 4 means.
Yeah, and you said PC 1?
3 and 4, is that FC 1, 2, 3, 4?
Is that, yeah, I'm thinking FC, and then he's got PC separately listed.
Yeah, maybe the first 4 FC.
So I think he's got 1, 2, 3, and 4 for FC. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
That only leaves FC 5 and PC 3.
Well,
Can you hear me now?
yeah, we can.
All right, fantastic. Sorry about that.
So Michael, if I understand your note right, you want FC 1, 2, 3, and 4 pulled?
Correct. And then PC 1, 4, and 5.
Okay. 1, 2, 4. Right. So we only have PC3
FC5,
and FC5 that didn't get pulled.
right. So I move those two forward on consent agenda.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
Second by Mike Guida. Any disagreements? All right, Dorothy Polis, please.
And Bill Hukio,
Here. Yes.
David Porter,
Yes.
John Cheshire,
Yes.
Michael Gelfand,
Yes.
Michael Guida,
Yes.
Tom Berger,
Yes.
Chadrick McCoy,
Yes.
Virginia Ferris,
Yes.
Francesca Wernish.
Yes?
Yep.
All right, our first
Correct.
vote.
That was a vote. Yes. All right. Very nice. All right. We will start with FC1. John, go ahead, Cheshire.
Dorothy, number 6.
Oh, and just for the record, Michael Tubiolo is online. It's not.
Just some clarification on this. It was a deficiency in the number of pressure gauges on the new equipment, and this was identified by the inspector. I got the right one.
Yeah, at number 6 is pressure gauges.
Okay. Could someone just explain why the pressure gauges couldn't be added to the equipment rather than the piping and draining everything? Because the description says on the new equipment. Usually there's connections on the equipment for the pressure gauges. I'm just curious what happened here.
It's Judd's.
That's Judd's. Yes.
Yeah, the way I understand it is that the the pressure gauges go on the piping, the chilled water piping that leads to and from the chilled water air handlers. So it's not on the unit itself, it's on the pipe that's adjacent to the unit that connects to it. So these had to be tied into that existing piping.
Isn't it standard to have the pressure gauges on the chilled water piping?
Yes, there are pressure gauges on the chilled water. There were 20 that were deficient on the 10 air handlers. So there were 2 that were missing on each air handler the way it has been described.
So the design engineer list them?
That is why it's being listed as a design omission, yes.
Oh, I thought it was an inspection.
But it does, but the cause is design omission. Yeah.
Okay, and then I had another one, and I don't know the number. If you could scroll down a little bit.
You know which school?
Yeah, it's the one with the GFI outlets on the water coolers.
Oh, that was like 30.
That's actually FC4.
Oh, it is? I thought,
That was for Garcia High School.
I don't know which high school it was.
I believe that is correct, Dorothy.
But it's at, John, it's not on the FC1, it's on
Okay.
4.
And we pulled FC.
You also pulled.
Okay.
We'll get to.
I'm done.
Michael Gelfand.
I had the same misstatement, if you would. Mine's on actually FC4, so I will pass. Thank you.
Okay, they were the only 2 that pulled. Someone want to make a motion then?
Vito?
No.
No, not for 1. Need a motion to allow FC1 to go forward?
I'll make a motion to, for FC1 to go forward to the board without objection.
Okay, need a second?
I'll second.
Second by Michael Guida. Any other discussion? All right, Dorothy Paulus, please.
Bill Hukio?
Yes.
David Porter?
Yes.
John Cheshire?
Yes.
Michael Gelfand?
Yes.
Michael Guida?
Yes.
Tom Berger?
Yes.
Chadrick McCoy?
Yes.
Virginia Ferris?
Yes.
Francesca Warnish?
Yes.
Okay. All right, FC2, let's see, Mike Guida.
On FC2, Riviera Beach Prep, I guess this was a credit given back to Kaufman Lynn, or from Kaufman Lynn to the school board, but yet it looked like there was a remaining balance of $99,000 plus or minus. And that amount was for what? If it was canceled, if the project was canceled at pre-construction, did they mobilize? Did they have equipment on site? What's $99,000 paying for?
I think this whole thing was pre-con.
It is.
Because no construction started.
Correct.
Yeah, so what was?
I know, but they stopped the pre-con. They got to a certain point, the school district got to a certain point on the project,
Right.
decided, no, we're gonna change course. But pre-con had already been done to evaluate the design we thought we were gonna build, correct?
That is correct.
Yes, okay.
What was the actual work being done?
They did pre-construction pricing.
Yeah, pre-construction pricing, valuing
Design review.
the existing conditions of the facility.
We hired the contractor and the architect at the same time to make sure the contractor keeps the architect on budget. So they're already pricing out based on prelim drawings, or even schematic, even conceptual drawings.
Paid to provide a bid,
Well, they're paid to provide pricing, do their estimating department.
estimating to create the budgets, things like that. Oh,
No, it's to validate whether the project that the architect is coming up with is feasible under the budget. And if not, then they have to tell the architect,
Right. Value engineer.
you ain't doing that 40-story tower here.
Correct.
It's time to change your design.
So there was, you got some kind of service for that monies, those monies.
Correct.
That's all I really
Okay,
need a clarification on.
okay, Virginia.
That some of that clarification helped, but I just wanted a fuller understanding of how the change occurred and why, when you first looked at the school, that wasn't the option. Just a fuller understanding of the change.
if I may, and Michael Tubiolo is on here too, so I welcome him piping in on this. But just so it's understood, this was originally part of a facility renewal, and the expectation was we were going to renovate the existing. It's a dual campus at Riviera Beach Prep North Tech. The expectation established way back when was that we would do a renovation of the existing buildings. You're familiar with the campus, the two buildings out in the front, right off Garden Road, are Riviera Beach Prep. We hired an architect and a contractor, as Mr. Porter said, and ultimately started the design process based on renovating the spaces. During the course of that design process that you're referring to, it became apparent that the design that we were proposing to do to renovate the space wasn't going to satisfy academically the needs of the programming needs, and in fact the costs were going to exceed the amount of money we had. So it put us in a very limited spot. This program was, we selected the architect and the contractor on a renovation basis. It was supposed to be renovating the spaces only, not building something new. When we hit that point at which we realized we were not going to serve the needs, we were not going to meet the program needs in the existing building, we had already gotten through schematics and we were starting into the design development phase. And that's when it became apparent that we were going to have that problem. So we stopped the program right then and there and worked with the contractor and the architect to try to come up with a more thorough evaluation of what we do need to do, what would be the best service to the school, to the programming needs. And that's where we worked with the architect and the contractor through this existing contract, came up with other alternatives as to how we would be able to do this and what they might cost. We presented those alternatives, those ideas up through leadership, and leadership was, having been fully informed of the better options, helped us make that decision as to, well, rather than renovate a space and not fully meet the needs, it was in our best interest to stop, cancel the contracts, and terminate the contracts, and rebid it under a new scope. And this new scope ultimately would involve constructing new facilities, knocking down the old existing building and building new facilities. And by doing that, by heading in that direction where we would be building new facilities, we're now put in that position where we've hired an architect and a contractor with expertise focused on renovating the spaces. If we now change course completely and go to a new construction, new design, new construction, that is deemed a cardinal change to the contract, and thereby put us in a position where we needed to do this termination for both of the contracts. School district's expectation is, now that we've gotten that point where we know what we want to do, what we need to do, we are going through the process of terminating those contracts, and we would immediately expect that we're going to put out an RFP, the new RFP, for a new scope, new construction of that facility immediately after this is approved.
So during this, for those funds that you paid, a new scope was defined?
Yes, we had got alternatives from the architect and the contractor working together based on the academic programming we had already gone through in the original design. We knew what they needed. We knew what they were asking for. The existing program plus whatever additional programs were needed. And that's where they came up with those options. We presented it to leadership. They made they took the recommendations and went with the new construction version.
My question is, why wasn't that done earlier as to meeting the needs of the school? Why did it go through to this point were there changes in what the staff wanted in the school?
No, not really. Not really. The academic programming remained generally as it's been. They do have an opportunity for, I don't know, cross-pollination. North Tech is an adult education, continuing education type of facility, whereas Riviera Beach Prep is more of a K through 12 academic program to help kids get back on course, on track. The expectation is going forward, we would probably try to merge the two, not merge, but as I said, cross-pollinate, make it so that the high school kids have an opportunity to look at an alternative academic program. They might want to go into the trades rather than traditional college-bound programming. So that's where we're kind of slightly expanding. We're more or less making the North Tech adult education trades facility available to the high school students that would be there. That's where I say there's a little bit of an expansion or a change, but essentially it's remaining, the program for Riviera Beach Prep remains an academic program to help them get on course and get back into finishing high school.
Michael Taviola.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to add on to what Dave's saying. So the vast majority of this work that was done is not work that's gone to waste. It'll be used in the next design. The contractor and the architect really did a fantastic job at looking outside the box and challenging what that original scope was to make it better for the school district. So that's what we asked them to do, and they did a great job with that. So this is no knock on them. They did exactly even more than what we asked them to do. There were some challenges on the project. For instance, the existing campus of Riviera Beach Prep, in order to renovate that, we would have had to either create a holding school, which would cost money, and there's really no value to the district. And as Dave said, we were already over budget. Or we would have to move the students in the existing campus and draw out the construction for almost 3 years. So for students to be living in construction for 3 years isn't a good thing either. So this option allows them to continue going to school in their existing building, build a new building, and not have to be disrupted by it. In addition to that, the existing Riviera Beach Prep building has all CMU walls on the inside. So when that building was originally designed, it wasn't designed for this purpose. It was designed for something totally different. So when we started programming the space out with academics, those spaces didn't really fit into what was there. So that's what drove up the cost a lot of moving all those structural walls that we didn't plan on doing because we didn't know what exactly they needed until we really dug into it. So.
My other question is, where's the money coming from? There's no amount here set aside for a new building.
So it's the same money, but we're adding to it. This will be borrowed money, so it's a COPS issue. So we're going to take a credit back for what we didn't use here and apply it to the new project.
So do you have an estimate of how much more you need?
We do. Dave, do you happen to have that in front of you?
It's about $25 million more on top of the budget that we have.
We see Leanne.
Yeah, I was going to say, Leanne, on camera.
Where it's coming from.
Yeah, Dave, I think we increased the budget for this project significantly as part of the capital plan, and I think we've already included that in the budget.
We did.
Yeah, so it's already in the budget. I haven't borrowed the money yet because I've learned over the years to wait until there's a GMP because with rising construction costs and the market being what it is, until we know what the actual budget is, I'm not going to go out and borrow the money for it. But we do have the money in the budget for this project based on their current estimated cost.
So you did that once the district decided to do a new building?
We did it as part of the capital plan update. So every year when we do the capital plan, I ask the team, what do we need to change? They actually go line by line and look at every project and let me know if changes are coming. And sometimes I say, okay, sometimes I ask them lots of questions on it. In this case, I knew what was going on here. You know, there was a lot of people involved in this decision and it went to leadership above Dave and my head. A lot of people looked at this to decide what was the best track to go for the district.
Okay, so this is just the first time we're seeing this.
Yes, we've been looking at this for months.
Thank you. If there's no other questions, I'll move.
I think there
Hold
are
on,
others.
Virginia, John Chester.
Yeah, a couple clarifications, please. David, you said the change was addressed during programming, and programming is usually done during schematics, yet the architect is being paid for his schematics, and I believe all of his design development, anyway, 775%?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
How did he get into design development?
I'm gonna let,
Michael.
I know the answer, but I'd prefer if Michael answers. since I
Michael
know that.
Tuviella. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the building would actually work as a renovation. It's just it doesn't work as well. So we programmed the space out of exactly what size classrooms, how many classrooms, what ancillary spaces, as you know, at typical programming. And it's not just one building that we're talking about. We're talking about a whole campus. So the rest of the campus really hasn't changed. What we're really focused on, the cardinal change of, is that Riviera Beach Prep building. So that building, they designed it to actually function, not ideally. So we had kind of wasted space in that building. So they went through and into DDs, figuring out the details of doing it. And when they got into DDs, that's when they started looking at the structure of the building, the mechanical systems and all that stuff, and saw that it was going to be even more than they had thought. So that's where it really came up.
And Michael, you also said that this work that they've done that you've paid them for can be reused in the new design. How's that?
A vast majority of it. For instance, developing the program of what those spaces are needed will be moved, and the rest of the campus would be absolutely used. And they actually went through and started the design of a new concept building, so they know exactly how big of that is. So they took that through and designed a new building, know what size it is, know what infrastructure for the site we need to do. So yeah, a lot of that work would just roll right over either to a new design team or to the same team if they were to happen to get it again.
Plus the work that was done in the design process, the schematics and the initial DDs for the North Tech portion of the campus, which if you're familiar with it, those are essentially the garage bays. For those of you who know the campus, the backside is a lot of garage bays, and that's where the technical programming goes on. A lot of that stuff, a lot of the design work that was done early on, a lot of that stuff will be reused directly into the new design. So when Michael's referring to like that whole project, North Tech Riviera Beach Prep, North Tech essentially stays the exact same scope, essentially. The Riviera Beach Prep part is the part where we get to take advantage of the programming work that was done, but design is essentially, that's the part that goes away.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on this one?
Mr. Gelfand has.
Michael Gelfand.
So first, I congratulate staff when you perceive that there's a change, willing to pull the plug. I do though have some questions on the timing. Am I correct that the program has not changed? It's still the same as it was before?
Go ahead, Michael. Yeah.
The program that, was developed as the schematic part of this project. So in this case, in some facilities, we have a very defined specific program ahead of time, like an elementary school. We know exactly what's going on here. With adult ed and Riviera Beach Prep, it's a little bit different. We only have one prep school like this. We only have a handful of adult ed spaces, and each adult ed campus is different. So that programming was done early on in the SD phase to meet with those academics and say, how much space do you need for each classroom? How do you operate? That kind of thing. And that was developed during this project, not ahead of time, like some other projects. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, so I guess the question is, who made or who made the programmatic change then?
So it wasn't necessarily a change that the academics. So we dealt directly with Fred Barch, who's our adult ed coordinator, and we dealt with Riviera Beach Prep and academics on that side of how they operate, because they don't operate in a traditional model like classrooms do. So going in, like I said, we didn't have a clearly defined program of exactly what space everything needed, like some projects we do. So it was developed during this project. So during that development, they figured out what size classroom we need as a typical classroom, because DOA gives us guidelines, but there's some flexibility in there that we have based on the need of the actual school itself.
And that's where I've got my rub, is that this seems to have occurred way too late down the line. And as a result, we're now going to be needing a $25 million. And I don't know what the answer to that at this point is. We've got $100K invested in this. Leanne, where does or how do we take what was a renovation and now it's a in essence new buildings in the prioritization that we have for the 5-year plan? I mean, does this also skip?
This project is actually on the referendum project list. So we need to do it. It's partially the new North Tech and partially facility renewal of the old River Beach Prep. And I wanted to ask a question of Michael because I want to make sure I understand it. I thought that by building the new building, we were actually going to save some money because it was going to cost so much to renovate that space that by building new, it was actually more efficient. It was going to be better off for the kids. It was an easier construction. And we have permission from DOE to tear those buildings down. The River Beach Prep building is the old North Tech. And we've had the Castaldi to tear those down. So when
it is
part
correct.
of it is also, and let me add one more thing before you jump in, Dave. The other thing that has changed since this started is cost per student station. We have a waiver now. So when we were building schools, we were looking at building what we needed to new and then renovate whatever we could because the renovated space was not subject to student station cost. There's no way we could get buildings done with its student station cost. And the state has now waived that for any project started up through 2028. So there have been times when we've actually spent more money renovating a school than we would have been tearing it down and building new. So I think this is a combination of multiple factors. At least that's the way it was explained to me. And Dave and Michael, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I wanted to clarify that because that's the way I had heard it.
Yes, that is correct. And the $30 million that the original budget would have that was available through the sales tax, as Leanne mentioned, would not have addressed the full need of just a simple renovation. It wouldn't have been enough. We would have exceeded it. In addition, Michael mentioned the holding campus that would have been required. That was something that was never envisioned when we did this because I'll say when the sales tax was initiated on this particular project, there was never an explanation of, oh, it's a substantial amount. We're going to have to move these kids around. Where do you move the kids around inside the building while construction is going on in rooms next door? There really wasn't a vision for that when the sales tax was passed. That's where, once we got into the programming, realizing all these challenges that we had, that's where, to Leanne's question, we would have spent more money than what we're going to spend by building new. When we renovate to meet the needs or to try to meet the needs, and it would have been a longer period. It would have taken us, 36 months to do that. All of those things would have led to more costs, which would have made it more painful for the academics, for the students, and equally as painful for finance, for paying for it.
So you said moving students around. So if you're renovating all the buildings and building new on the campus, doesn't that mean you still have to put students someplace?
No, we're gonna leave the students in the two existing buildings that we were initially going to renovate. We'll leave them there while adjacent to it,
Okay.
we'll build a new building on campus. Let's say maybe over by wherever, somewhere else on the campus.
Okay.
There will be a new building constructed. The moment that new building is completed, we will then literally pick up the kids in an afternoon, bring them over. The next day they can go in the, we won't do it that way, of course,
Yeah.
but they will not miss any academic time.
It's like we do modernization.
How we do modernization.
We build a new school in the ball fields in the parking lot and then tear the building down and they become the ball fields in the parking lot.
Correct. Whereas if we were to continue on that renovation program, we would have had to renovate inside the building,
no, I understand.
right next, classrooms right next to where the kids are at.
Yep. Okay. Any other comments or questions for staff?
Yeah, This is a close one for me. I would suggest as we deal with what Michael, what I'll paraphrase as non-traditional uses or building uses, that whoever's in charge of the program, they're sat down and they make certain that we know what they want before we start jumping in. I think also we need to, or the staff needs to let the board know that this is not just a simple credit, but there's going to be a, request up to $25 million coming down the line for this. So that's not, shown on here.
I think it's on, forgive me, I could be wrong with Dorothy. I believe it's on PC 4 or 5. We do make the notation on the other items about the use, the future use. I don't believe we actually said the part about the additional costs. That's it actually in an approved, in the capital plan in which the board already approved those additional funds.
And just to add to that, we often do hire the architects to develop that program for us and to refine that, because we just don't have the staff and time to do all that legwork. So it's part of it, and David knows it's traditionally is part of the architect's scope to develop that program and verify it as you get at the start of the project.
What I would say going forward is, now that the architect has already gone through and helped you refine the program for what hopefully everybody now agrees will be going forward, I would say that don't come back with, monster changes saying, well, we didn't think about this. That time's passed. Now it can be part of the RFP and we go to town.
We would agree.
Good point, David.
We would agree. Yes.
Okay, if nothing else on this, someone make a motion, please.
Move to go forward without objection.
All right, need a second on that. Second by John Cheshire. Any other comments, questions? Dorothy, poll us, please.
Bill Hookhill,
Yes.
David Porter,
Yes.
John Cheshire,
Yes.
Michael Gelfand,
Yes.
Michael Guida,
Yes.
Tom Berger,
Yes.
Chadrick McCoy,
Yes.
Virginia Ferris,
Yes.
Francesca Warnish.
Yes.
Okay, FC3, Michael Gelfand.
Just as a procedural matter, Mr. Chair, I'm going to have to be off for a 10 o'clock bar meeting that I have coming up. If there's anything that we need to do because of a quorum issue, this is the time to think about it. Otherwise, I'll just proceed forward with my comment here. On FC.
Hold on, Michael, hold a second. We will still have a quorum, Dorothy?
Of quorum.
All right, thanks, Michael. I wanted to confirm that. Go ahead.
I guess my body's not even worth 97 cents. Okay. So in FC3, I don't know what the exact threshold is for me these days, but I'm looking at a 100K plus change order was this bid?
Yeah, you got 2 bids.
Yes.
Not a third.
No.
Any reason not a third? That's usually standard.
Go ahead, Michael.
Go ahead.
So we have a school district has a contract with CI for these services, and it's a state contract. So they pre-negotiated a rate for some of this work. So that's what we initially had that in the scope of work. We brought it to the construction manager to see if we can get a better deal. They reached out to the electrical sub that was already on the project, got a quote from them to add it in, and it was less than the original quote that we had to go through the district. So the district was planning on doing this on our own, but it just made financial sense to go through the contractor in this case.
All right, thank you. I'll make the motion then to proceed with the action.
I have a question.
Yeah,
I just want an explanation of what a BDA system is.
Oh, very good point. Okay, good point. Bidirectional amplification is I guess I'll refer to it as a security measure, but it's a safety measure. It is, if you've ever been inside a concrete block wall facility And if you've ever tried to get your cell phone service in there, or if you've had a radio, you know, the school police or maintenance guys have radios. If you've ever been inside and then you try to communicate with somebody outside, those concrete block walls oftentimes make it so very difficult for any transmission of signals. We have that often in our schools. We do tilt wall construction on most of our schools. That ends up becoming a barrier for a lot of radio signals, primarily, let's call them school police radios or maintenance radios. What this is, bidirectional amplification system, is we basically put a receiver inside the building and an antenna on top of the building connected to that receiver. And that receiver has, like, I'll just say legs that go out throughout the building so that far areas of the campus, if you're using a radio, that signal from outside the walls goes through the antenna, out through the receiver, and can be distributed inside the campus and vice versa, of course. So it's basically a way to make sure that the radios work primarily in an emergency situation, but of course, in all situations. And yes, the theory is it will also help with cell services as well.
So this is in all of our schools?
It will be included in all of our schools. We're putting it in the new ones now.
We need it. What the assessment determines that it's necessary.
Yeah, we're doing assessments now with Communications International to make sure that those schools that do, some schools only need it in certain areas. Some schools may not need it at all. They have good transmission, but quite a number of schools have areas of challenge, and that's what this system will solve for.
In a simple explanation, it's a signal booster.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Virginia in your house, if you had Wi-Fi.
Right. I'm familiar with that, yes. I've got an extender. I've got an extender. I just didn't understand what this was.
Yep.
That's what this is.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like we,
School board have a,
hold on, Michael Gelfin.
Yeah,
does the school board have have the BDA in their design criteria now?
We do.
It's part of it.
Okay, Michael Gelfin.
yeah, this is part of the post-World Trade Center life safety recommendations for first responders, particularly, so that the radios would work. And you'll see that many of the high-rise condominium projects are retrofitting at budget-breaking numbers, unfortunately.
Yeah. I just finished a medical office in a Boca office building, and the BDA system, we had to have testing done to make sure that in the office suite, all the signals were sound. So,
Yeah.
yes. Okay.
I'll move it forward without objection.
All right. Need a second?
Second.
Second by John Cheshire. Any other comments? Paulus Dorothy, please.
Bill Hookiel,
Yes.
David Porter,
Yes.
John Cheshire,
Yes.
Michael Gelfand,
Yes.
Michael Guida,
Yes.
Tom Berger,
Yes.
Chadrick McCoy,
Yes.
Virginia Ferris,
Yes.
Francesca Warnish.
Yes.
Okay. FC4. Four of us pulled that one. Start with John Cheshire.
Change order 33. This was the drinking fountains and to add GFCI outlets per the latest electrical code, apparently, which says you need to access the GFCI without the use of tools. But the response to my question was the manufacturer of the water fountain requires the GFCI outlet to be located within the shroud of the water cooler. However, the shroud cannot be removed to access the GFCI without the use of tools. So this says we have two GFCIs on each water cooler, one inside the shroud, which could trip, and one outside, which could trip. And you could hit the one on the outside, but you still got to take the shroud off to get to the one on the inside.
And let Judd go ahead. Got an answer?
Yes, sir. So the way this is done currently is that we install these water coolers per manufacturer installation recommendations, which when they recommend it, they recommend the outlet be behind the unit, and that's the only place that the cord can reach without modifying the unit, which would void the it's not ULA, but you know,
The UL.
yeah, thank you. The UL of the unit. But there is no, we do not install the GFCI behind the unit. The circuit itself has to be GFCI protected. The two options are to put a blank GFCI outlet below the unit where there's no plug for it, but that is in series with the unit, the outlet that's behind the unit. The other option is to run an entire new neutral and everything else back to the panels and put in a GFI breaker, which is a much more expensive option. So
which one did you do?
In almost every case, we have opted to put the plain outlet behind the unit per the manufacturer's installation recommendation in series with a GFCI that is blank plated, which means there's no plug outlet for it underneath. So that GFCI protects the outlet that's installed behind that is inaccessible, while the GFCI is accessible but is also not an electrical hazard for anybody to stick fingers in or et cetera.
And how do you reset the one outside the unit?
Just by pushing the button.
How do you reset the one inside the unit?
There is not one inside the unit. That is a standard outlet that is protected by the GFCI outside the unit in series.
So the response I received to my question, it said the manufacturers require the GFCI outlet to be located within the shroud.
I think that's a mistake. That the GFCI is not inside the shroud. The GFCI is outside the shroud. The regular outlet is inside the shroud.
Thank you.
The water cooler manufacturers require an outlet within the shroud. So it's a plain outlet that's inside, and it's just a single outlet. So that's the only thing that can be plugged into it. That is tied to this called a faceless. Okay, and on the faceless, all it has is the buttons, the reset buttons.
Interesting. Okay.
I know. It's a nice little trick.
That's supposed to.
Thank you.
All right, let's see.
That was cheaper than replacing
Than an actual
GI breakers
outside.
and adding a neutral.
Yes, typically.
Okay. Michael Gelfand, you had pulled this one too?
Yes, number 30 on this, the concrete benches. Who requested this and what was the program change?
Staff?
Did staff ask for it? No, we didn't.
No. I mean, somebody requested a lot of benches in the courtyard that were either missed at the beginning or added.
So these were originally designed as like FF&E benches, like metal benches that you would put in the courtyard. And what they decided was, as they got into the project, that would be better to do concrete, more permanent benches that would last longer. So
Who is they?
the design team and the school.
And the principal, the
principal.
assigned principal, yeah.
The principal is the one that selects the furniture.
Michael, the description doesn't say that though. It says provide and install new concrete benches. It doesn't, so you deleted the metal ones and then paid for an upgrade for the concrete?
Yes.
All right.
FF&E wasn't included in from what I remember, Michael, maybe I'm wrong, but forgive me, I might be saying it wrong. The FF&E isn't included in the general contractor's contract for that. James Campbell would have had to go out and buy benches through the FF&E program for it.
Got it.
So it wouldn't have been in Pirtle's contract. Yep. And then once we got into this, we said, Pirtle, go buy these.
Okay.
Okay, and according to Angel, he actually updated the narrative that I had there. But after the fact, after we had already released it. So he said basically they were trying to provide ample outdoor seating for students throughout the courtyard and to help guide student traffic during the day between classroom changes. So a lot of these campuses, the students like to eat outside during lunchtime and things like that. So we were providing the benches for that purpose.
It's one of the questions I get all the time on the high schools, just in general. They'll want FF&E for additional ones. Not enough seating outside for the kids.
Virginia, you had pulled this one too.
Yes, mine is a general question. I had questions on some of the specifics, but my question is, we've done a lot of change orders already on the high school, and these are a whole batch more, and the school's been open for a year, so I assume these are follow-up or?
Yeah, everything's catch up. We've had, I think we've had, is it 3 months now in a row? We've had a whole laundry list of change orders.
And the cost of all these change orders was within the budget?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I hope we don't see any more. This has been quite a few. I mean, it's things like 31, provide 234 new grommets. I mean, if you're you're going to have IT, why wasn't that part of the desk design? There's so many of these things that I wonder about. The police, again, asking for the shield at the reception desk coming after the fact. So many of these I thought could have been handled earlier without change orders.
Well, that was kind of why I pulled it too, because of all the change orders that we're seeing on substantial numbers. A lot of electrical work that we've seen over the last 3 months on these. I just wondered if there's kind of, was this systemic where it was either architect or MEP missing stuff? Was it the district not looking at our own drawings closely enough to find this stuff? Just seems like a lot of stuff that was missing that should have been caught before it became a change order. Were the drawings done too quickly? Did we rush this school to the point that we said, architect, give us the drawings now?
Well, if I may, I don't want to necessarily answer your question directly as, had we done all these change orders in a timely manner during the course of construction, we would have been the same budget. It would have been the same needs. They just would have come in instead of 10 this month. You might have had 2 1 month, 2 another month, 3 another. You would have seen them. Now, we recognize that that's a fault, that our team should have expedited these during the course of construction instead of waiting till now to reconcile all these things. So they came in. As far as the details behind it, I don't want to blame architects or contractors, but there are a lot of coordination efforts that went into this. And I think some of the things that you're talking about, some of them are add-ons, let's say from a principal or the academic team. There's no question about it. We are always going to have those kinds of things on new construction. I think a number of them will show up in that manner. But in general, I think there are a handful of them that are coordinating efforts. And I think they in order to stay on target, some things may have missed on occasion, but by and large, these are, I don't want to say de minimis, but low in the value.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. It's just, every job I've been on, when there are multiple revisions, stuff gets missed, stuff gets forgotten, and you get charged extra every time because now you get overhead and profit added on to every one of these, and maybe a time delay. I mean, it just seems like there are way too many things that were missed.
And some of them could well be that we were trying to stay on target, on schedule, and that certain parts of the design might have, and not necessarily on this project, but in general on some of our projects, we move forward with, I don't want to say 75% CDs, but we move forward with an early phase project, and some of those design features may not have been fully vetted prior to waiting for the full GMP. Like we might do a first phase, second phase. And I think sometimes we get caught on those.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Michael Gelfand, yes.
I've got a scoop, but I got a couple of quick ones. Going back to my benches thing, I do not see any credit for the metal benches at all. I could have that wrong, but I went back into the detail.
Yeah, I don't believe there were ever metal benches included.
No, that's I'm sorry, forgive me, Mr. Gelfand, when I was mentioning before The metal benches would have been FF&E, and I was referring to Dr. Campbell over here, who usually handles purchasing the FF&E out of a separate budget line item. It is not part of the contractor's contract. So the original metal benches, Dr. Campbell probably had them, but because he wasn't going to do them, we now push that scope over to the contractor, so there would be no credit. This is just an add. Essentially, it is moving money from one pocket to the other. We're taking out of Dr. Campbell's pocket and putting it over to the contractor. But no, from this contract, you would not see a credit back.
All right. That's a bit of a difference than, what I was told originally here. The next thing is, before I just scoot off, with reference to that security glass and everything, I've got this constant issue with security issues coming up as change orders, and it would appear that should be part of the specifications at the front. I don't understand why these items keep coming back up. I will request again that there be another look-see at how we approach the security issues in the schools to avoid these change orders. With that, Mr. Chair, my apology for just throwing these things out, but as I said at the beginning, I got to scoot. So thank you very much.
All right, Michael. Michael Tilley, hello. You have your hand up?
Yeah, and just to clarify, as Dave mentioned, the benches were not part of the Pirtle scope of work. So that's an FF&E item. So you don't see it in the change order, but it was part of the overall construction budget. This project construction cost was right around 85 million, give or take. And the overall project value is 105 million. If we were to repeat that, it'd probably be double. We bid this right before all the heavy escalation took place. So keep that in mind with the number of change orders that come through, that proportionally to the project, it's not as much as it seems when you're comparing it to other projects. We don't do many high schools, so.
I had one final comment.
Yes, Virginia.
Just that so many of these, you go down the list, say school district request, and I think we all would like this to be looked at carefully beforehand, so we don't have to have all these change orders. And I accept that it was a new school, it was trying to keep on time and all of that, but please try to have these fixed before they have to be a change order.
Yeah. The bench has worked out about $1,800 a bench. I mean, that's as cheap as we can get a concrete bench, I guess.
Yeah.
Whew. Okay.
And much more durable and longer. We might have spent $600 on a metal bench, but we'd have to buy 3 of them in the time that the $1,800 concrete bench would last.
And move forward without objection.
Second by John Cheshire. Any other comments, discussion? All right, Paulus Dorothy, please.
Bill Hukill?
Yes.
David Porter?
Yes.
John Cheshire?
Yes.
Michael Guida? Tom Berger?
Yes.
Chadrick McCoy? Chadrick?
He's muted.
Come back. Virginia Ferris?
Yes.
And Francesca Warnish?
Yes.
Okay, FC6, Mike Guida.
I think I brought this up in the past, and I think this comment would be applicable to all of the other credits. And this question is more directly towards legal. When we get a credit towards a contract, is there any provisions, I think John Cheshire mentioned it, to give back the overhead and profit as well from the original price?
I don't know if legal's necessarily going to.
I don't know that, yeah.
I'm going to defer to Mr. Tubiola. Do you want to? Michael, could you hear that question, by the way?
Can you repeat that, please?
The short question is, why is the overhead and profit not given back as well as a credit, just the actual schedule of value item that was listed in the original contract?
So I think it was last month, we went through how we currently are doing that. And that's our current procedure. We are working on updating our procedures to have that in the future, so.
So I can answer this maybe. On this particular project, the items that we're getting credits for are pre-construction funds, which do not have overhead and profit in them.
Okay.
Contingency and allowance do not have overhead and profit in them when we do the GMP. So we would not get overhead profit back on any of those. The only thing really in question then is the unpurchased scope, and that's money coming back from the divisions that wasn't spent. Right now, what we say is that if it's money that the contractor saved us, then they still earn their overhead and profit. We are working on revising that so that there would be more of a correlation between the percentage of work done and the percentage of overhead and profit.
And that is a contractual situation that would be modified in the future.
Yes.
That's why I directed it towards legal.
Actual directed towards construction purchasing, because we'll end up putting it in the contract.
Is there an ETA on when you think that might be the new implemented policy? Michael Tubiello, do you know?
We're looking at Q1 of next year. To keep in mind that that's what we have several changes to the contract that we're making. That's just one little part of it. So
Recommendation of change.
recommendation. Yep.
Because there's also the other side of the coin on that.
Yes.
The other side of the coin is you want to disincentivize your CMs to get the best pricing for you.
Yep.
They're the guys out there who are shopping the subcontractors and negotiating with them to try to get the best number for you. So if you tell them you do that and we take money away from you, then it's a disincentive to do that. So.
Like, here's your number.
Yeah.
Live with it.
Exactly. And as a matter of fact, there's an incentive to pad the number so they don't get hit with any additional extras.
Yeah, it's a catch-22. Yep. All right.
I'll recommend for it to move forward.
Okay.
For the board.
Second by John Cheshire. Any other comments? PC6, FC6.
FCC.
All right, Dorothy, poll us, please.
Bill Hookhill,
Yes.
David Porter,
Yes.
John Cheshire,
Yes.
Michael Guida,
Yes.
Tom Berger,
Yes.
Chadrick McCoy, Virginia Ferris,
Yes.
Francesca Warnish.
Yes.
All right.
Can you see Chadrick? Is he trying to answer? Or has he left us?
He's still showing, but it shows his microphone.
He might be on a call or something that he has to do, so that's fine. You can just list him as not voting because he's absent for the moment. FC7 Virginia, you pulled that.
Yes, I was concerned about 871 days. I know it said that it was permitting delay and the closeout of the fire line, but 871 days? Please talk about that permitting problem.
Yeah, this was one of two projects. If you remember, we had one last month or the month before of 900 days, and it was the same situation on two different schools. And we talked about it at the time that there'd be another one coming, and this is that one. This is problem with water utilities at the site. Water lines got delayed so we went ahead with the project, but they had to come back after and work out all the permitting issues with water utilities, which took, about 3 years to do.
Don't tell me this is Palm Beach County Water Utilities again. Don't.
It is. It's the same. There was two schools that happened at the same time, and it's very similar situations to each school. So, but this is the last of the two.
Was the school able to operate? Did it have water? Did it have the fire line?
Must have had water.
Both of these.
I don't know the details on that side of it, but yeah.
Both fire loops were operated by fire pump feeding water from the nearby retention pond.
Oh my God.
This was to replace that fire pump
System in which we did.
To the county system.
So yeah, Virginia, there was a fire pump pulling from a pond that worked the fire system previously. And this was to get rid of that and have it tie into public order instead.
Okay, so the delay was on that line, not on water to the school.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you. I'll move to go forward.
Second.
Second by John Cheshire. Any comments, questions? Dorothy?
Bill Hookhill,
Yes.
David Porter,
Yes.
John Cheshire,
Yes.
Michael Guida,
Yes.
Tom Berger,
Yes.
Chadrick McCoy, Virginia Ferris,
Yes.
and Francesca Warnish.
Yes.
Okay, Michael Gelfand had pulled PC1. He's not here. So because it was pulled, I guess someone make a motion to go forward.
Move to go forward.
Second.
Second by John Cheshire. Go ahead and poll this, Dorothy.
Bill Hookhill,
Yes.
David Porter,
Yes.
John Cheshire,
Yes.
Michael Guida,
Yes.
Tom Berger,
Yes.
Chadrick McCoy, Virginia Ferris,
Yes.
Francesca Warnish.
Yes.
Okay, PC2, I had pulled that. My question is about bowhead roofing, which I'd never heard of before.
I had to find out what a bowhead was.
Looked up their website, really doesn't seem like they've done a lot. I guess they're on our pre-qualification list.
They are.
I mean, okay, I mean, they were low bidder.
So to get on our pre-qualification list, they have to meet the criteria of the pre-qualification program, and they met the criteria. So kind of, in the words of my predecessor, on low bid, you get what you get and you don't get upset.
That sounds like Martin.
I got a little bit of context to it. I worked with them when I was back in the industry, and maybe some of the contractors here, maybe we've worked with them before too. They're a company that they were birthed out of TNG contractors, I think it is. TNG has been around for a long time. I think the owner of Bowhead is actually the son of the owner of one of the owners of TNG. Yeah, and they've done a lot of work in Miami. They've done a lot of work from Miami-Dade College and other places further south than us. So they're pretty decent.
Okay.
And part of the pre-qualification program is to look at their experience that they have provided, and all of that is vetted. So they did meet the criteria.
And you're gonna ask something? Oh, okay.
Okay, we should probably just keep an eye on them.
So is that the name of a person, Bowhead?
That's the name of a whale.
It's a name of a whale. And if you look at their website, they give you the definition.
Thank you. Move to go forward.
Okay. Second by Mike Guida. Dorothy Paulus, please.
Bill Hookhill,
Yes.
David Porter,
Yes.
John Cheshire,
Yes.
Michael Guida,
Yes.
Tom Berger,
Yes.
Virginia Ferris,
Yes.
Francesca Warnish.
Yes.
I'll give you one more chance. Chadrick McCoy.
Yes.
All right.
All right, Tragic, welcome back.
Can I say one more follow-up
Yes, please.
to that one? So when we have any bid that goes out, when the bids come in, we always hold a post-bid conference with every one of with the lowest bidder. And we make sure that they understand the scope of work and that they can, we have it in writing that they do understand the scope of work and that they are qualified and capable and bonded and ready to, complete the work.
Okay.
So there's some level of confidence there in them.
I got real curious because they were low bid against other roofers that have been around
Well,
for
they want to get their
decades
foot
and
in the
have
door,
done millions of square feet of roofing for us. And I'm thinking to myself, okay. All right, PC4, John, go ahead and start us.
Yeah, my comment on this one is I just feel that the board item should provide more information. Just like we had here, we had no idea what was going on. I mean, the board's going to see this or other people reading it, the public, contractors, whoever. Oh, they're firing a contractor. Why? Be nice to have some sort of indication in the board item.
And I believe, forgive me.
In this case, I guess it's the architect. But
this one's architect.
Yeah, this one and the next one. I believe we are going to be communicating through the superintendent with the board members on this.
Yeah, we don't have formal agenda conferences like the county or has, but we do have one-on-one meetings with the board members to walk them through the board what's going on.
That's good, but in this case, the public doesn't know, another contractor or architect reading this, oh, this guy got fired.
Yeah.
And I know for me personally, I was taken aback by the term termination. I know it had been brought up and I felt like, ow, that hurts. I don't want them to be, the contracting architect did a great job on this project. They really helped us out. I like the idea of termination, but it is a legal term. And I guess the term termination.
It's in our contracts. And
Right. And as opposed to for cause, meaning they did something bad, and for convenience is simply, I didn't realize that at the time, but it hurts when you see the word termination. I appreciate your position on it too.
Mike, where do you pull this to?
Yeah, but it was answered when we
Okay.
answered the previous one related
All
to.
right, I'd make a motion then if you want.
I'll make a motion for it to move forward.
Second by John. Any other comments, questions? Polis Dorothy?
Hey, Bill Hukill,
Yes.
David Porter,
Yes.
John Cheshire,
Yes.
Michael Guida,
Yes.
Tom Berger.
I just need to make a comment. Cheshire is seconding everything before allowing anyone else. Yes.
I'm on it today.
We got him on the last one.
Come to the meeting.
I usually come to the meeting. Here I'm gonna be useful.
Tom Berger, I'm going to reserve the next one so that you can make a motion.
Yes.
Not yet. Too early.
Chadwick McCoy,
Yes.
Virginia Ferris,
Yes.
Francesca Warnish.
Yes.
All right, PC5, Mike Guida and Michael Gelfand, who's not here. Would Mike Guida, anything?
Page 57, please, Dorothy. It talks about the termination clause, 17.3.2. It talks about documents have to be turned over by the contractor, and I just want to know what those are. And it may have been answered from the previous FC when you talked about, when I asked the question, what did you guys get for the $99,000? So I guess you got a schematic design with the new building.
Well, and
I think Mr. Tublio.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
earlier today, so.
I was gonna say that's kind of this.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat it for sake of time. So I'm going to move, if there's no other objections, I'm going to move it forward to the board.
I second.
Hey. All right, any other comments, questions? All right, Dorothy?
Bill Hukill,
Yes.
David Porter,
Yes.
John Cheshire,
Yes.
Michael Guida,
Yes.
Tom Berger,
Yes.
Chadwick McCoy,
Yes.
Virginia Ferris,
Yes.
Francesca Warnish.
Yes.
Wow, that's the most we've pulled and had discussions in a long time.
Part of our Christmas.
I
told her we normally only talk about one or two items.
When we had our briefing with Ms. Warnish, I had said to her, like, well, you know, sometimes CORC will pull one or two items and we'll have discussions and details. And when I saw the list, I was like, oh boy.
This is good. I'm getting practice for the process, so I appreciate it.
That's right. All right, staff updates.
Okay, Michael, do you have any staff updates that you'd like to convey?
No, not this time.
Well, I actually have a question you can talk about. We have any damage from the
That's
tornado?
exactly what I was going to go to. I wanted to let you know.
Okay.
Thank you. We were, knock on wood, the school district as a whole, our facilities were, we were fortunate. We really did not have much damage at all. Actually, no damage, true damage, trees and things like that, debris, but no damage to the schools.
So those still wall panels are still vertical?
They are, they are. Yes, so we were quite happy. And again, I always want to thank my staff because between the construction and maintenance department, the efforts that need to go into reevaluating what condition the facilities are in advance to be able to get school open was monumental. And a lot of staff that comes in. We also have a lot of staff, believe it or not, that actually mans the shelters. We had 5 shelters open during this most recent hurricane. We didn't have any shelters open during the first one 2 weeks earlier. But this one, we did have 5, and we had a number of staff members that were there on site through the storm to be able to make sure that the facilities kept running. And like every place else, you have power outages, and we have air conditionings that go out, and leaks and plumbing things and whatnot. It's really good to have a lot of our staff. And I know Mr. Sanchez can probably vouch for the food service people that actually work the shelters to make sure that our most in need customers get the opportunities get those services. So we were really fortunate. We're really happy. And in fact, we never want it to happen again. Just want to make that clear. But we did take advantage of it. And even yesterday, Mr. Sanchez had a lessons learned opportunity, see what we could improve upon on how we mobilize, how we work with our vendors, better communication between us and the schools, the administration, because if you know, shelters aren't run by the principals. Because I guess it used to be United Way and things like that, but essentially it's now run by us in the county. And we have some good things that we learned from that. But by and large, we had a good event for us, and we want no more hurricanes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, sadly, our hurricane canceled our OpX 3 session that was scheduled for this past Monday. We will have it on February 24th. So for those that are watching and listening, please know that's still on. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to have it at a different time when we can have PDD day, right? And I think that's it. Michael, nothing else on your side, right? No?
No, not this time.
All right, in progress.
Okay. As I warned Ms. Wernish, I talk way too much, so I will try to limit that. This is our traditional monthly report of what's going on. This first slide is indicative of the amount of money that's been accrued from the sales tax program and how much we've expended. We're still staying pretty well up with it. We're falling further behind because I guess to our benefit, we are accruing a lot of money in excess of what we had anticipated. So that is actually a good thing for us. This next list, again, I always remind everybody, this presentation is online. So if our contractors and architects are interested in knowing what projects are coming up and what RFPs and other solicitations, this list is out there for them right now, the difference between the reds and the blues. I think the reds are the continuing contracts. There you go. And the blues are the standard RFP procurements. Next slide. This is, as I always say, this is a slide for you CORC members to see what we would anticipate we will be bringing forward in October in the Grove project, Royal Palm Beach Elementary Facility Renewal. And you can see a lot of them are the red ones, are the continuing contract services. So I'm not going to go through the details on these, but the development activities, for those who are not familiar, this is more in telling everybody what we're anticipating putting out design projects. Are we doing RFPs? We call them Form A's. That's in order to hire those CCNA consultants and contractors through purchasing. That's what this slide is representing. You can see there's still quite a bit of work to go on. These are the projects that are in design and heading towards GMP. The next series of slides, we're going to scroll through relatively quickly. These are all the facility renewal projects at each of the 30 some odd schools that we have with the projects underway. Next slides are, okay, sorry, 2 more. There you go. And now some I always remind everybody, the work we do in our facility renewals, these sales tax projects, they are not necessarily the pretty projects that everybody likes to see on websites.
There's that remote trip on the GFI.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you called me on that. We went right past that. It's under there. But yes, these are not the pretty projects, but these are the ones that are critical to the well-being of our schools. Waterproofing and windows and our renovations in our bathrooms, flooring. Okay, now we're moving on to our new work, our larger work. West Acreage area. Normally, at this point, I usually end up turning this all over. This all goes over to Angel. These aren't Angel's projects anymore. This is actually Joel Campbell's project. The tilt panels for West Acreage Area Elementary School are up. As a matter of fact, I think this might be, Joel could probably correct me, but I think this is probably a week or so old because I think they've tilted up a number more. I think we now have all panels. I think we're at 100% or pretty darn close to having them up. And as you'll notice, the grass area behind it, that's that area that leads, that's a future park, and it leads right out to Southern Boulevard. That's Southern Boulevard on the top of that. So prettier pictures of the work that's underway. Okay, Pine Grove. This one, I believe, Mark, right? Mark Rupp. For those of you who have not had the pleasure of meeting Mark is one of our newer SPAs. Mark has been taken over Pine Grove. It was Angel's project at one point. You may recall we opened up Pine Grove, the new buildings that were constructed, and we've moved the students out of the old building. This is again one of those ones where we get to build the new building on the same campus while the kids went and stayed in the old building. Over the summer, they were moved into the new buildings. Now Mark is picking up the project and demolishing the old campus, the big, referred to as the donut.
Yeah.
And that will be demolished for the parking lot and for the bus loop. And before we demolish it, you have to remediate all the asbestos and such. So they're in the process of doing that now. So that we will see progress over the next several months on it being demolished and ultimately building the new construction. And there's some photos of the work that's gone on there. Winbrook Elementary, as you may recall, Winbrook, they are currently being housed, the students are being housed at a temporary holding campus at Crestwood Middle School. And the work is underway. 2 of the buildings are renovations and 1 new building. And it is all this two new buildings. Yeah, don't know the details as well as I should. Oh, that's right. The one in the big long building, the building behind it, and then the one in the top is the renovated one. As you can see, that one's a little bit further along. This school will be opened up in August. Okay, and West Riviera Elementary. We started this project in June. There's been some remediation work that had to go on. We've demolished the buildings now. As you'll notice, storm work is ongoing. Sorry, it says finished most of the demolition. I could be wrong on the details, but floor pours in the kitchen area of building 3. That's a messy construction site for you. So there is at least the 1 building that is to remain. And underground work is underway. That's the pour of the inside of building 3. Historic Roosevelt, full service. This is with Pirtle Construction, and Joseph's working that. We may recall there's the shop building. That's going to be a renovated building. The gymnasium is a historic facility, not historic, it's of historic nature, and we are renovating that one. And we are building a new 2-story building. And it's moving along quite nicely. You'll notice in this image, the building up in the top left, that's the existing old campus. That will remain for the time being while we construct the new pieces. Eventually, what we've been referring to as Phase 2, Roosevelt Phase 2, we will be renovating some of those buildings and working with community partners to outfit them and turn them into beneficial. I think we have a museum and a library media center planned for that Phase 2 project. But what you see right here, the bottom right is the lab building that's being gutted and renovated. To the big right, that's the gymnasium. Right now, it looks like it's tented because we are actually remediating lead paint on the exterior of the building. So it is tented. And then down there in the center is the new construction, the 2 buildings. If you go to the next slide, you'll see the new building a little bit better. There we go. So the big one on the left is the tented gymnasium, 2-story building. The second floor walls are up and heading towards enclosing that space. Okay, and going forward, now we get into the fun stuff, which is Dorothy's work. And she's just going to slowly slide right on through because she doesn't want to make any reference to any of the work that's ongoing there. As we always say, Dorothy's the hardest working person here. She's got more projects than everybody else combined in the minor projects row. And
Michael,
I think that's it, yes.
Dorothy, on the reline sewer piping project for Spanish River High School, what's that scope there?
It's a rubberized epoxy type lining that they inject into the pipes.
So
And
cast in place piping?
yes,
Okay, because of cast iron's failing? At
yes,
some points, okay.
yes.
All right.
Continuous leaks, continuous problems.
Yeah.
And with Spanish River, it is one of our older schools. But it certainly needs for regardless of when it would be modernized in the future. Obviously that our intent, we got to make sure we keep everything running in good shape. So we do have remedial efforts like this on quite a number of our older schools.
My studies have shown that around 1970, this region of the country transitioned to PVC.
Yeah.
Anything underground before 1970, you got a real good chance it's cast iron.
The Spanish River was 80, 81, 82, around there.
That's late.
Get home kids in 83.
I actually had a couple questions on your follow-up there, and maybe it's for purchasing. When we do the CCNA pre-qualified list that we selected 10 architects, 10 contractors, and you issue jobs out, I know when we have RFPs, they have to present superintendents, project managers, project architects, all of that stuff, and we make sure that they have the capability that they're not doing 10 other jobs when they're on that team. Do you do the same thing when you're about ready to kind of hand out a job to a CM or an architect?
The facilities SPAs are working with them and to make sure that they can take on that work when it's assigned to them.
All right.
And we ask them, anyone in that pool of the architects and the construction management firms, we ask them to keep in constant communication with us in purchasing to let us know when they're reaching their capacity so that, you know, we're not setting them up for failure to assign them a project. It's always better if we have that word from them that they're reaching capacity and we can, you know, dole out the work in a you know, more equitable manner than if we give it to them and then they say we can't handle this work right now. That impacts them a little negatively in our.
Dorothy, maybe you know this answer, or Michael Tubiel, with the water fountains and the GFI stuff we talked about. Is that somehow getting put into our specs?
Yes, sir.
That, you know, maybe another electrical engineer coming along isn't aware of that, and all of a sudden we end up with the same change order.
It's being incorporated into the district standards.
Okay.
I'm sure this has been discussed before, but do we really need chilled water coolers? understand you need a water.
It's not required. A water fountain is all you need.
That's all you need.
Right.
I mean, maintenance, I bet you hate them. They gotta always have problems with them. We got all these costs. Just something to think about if you haven't.
We were just talking about why do we have chilled water instead of just regular water in a water fountain? Because chilled water is not required.
Are you talking about in the school building?
Yes.
Oh, come on. It's gotta be chilled.
Why?
Why?
Well, because anytime when I was a kid and went to the water fountain and it wasn't chilled, I was pissed.
Drinking out of the garden.
So Tom, your whole problem in life has been because you didn't have chilled water in school, right?
That's not the only problem. There was lead in my paint, but other than
Mr. Sanchez, do you know if that's kind of a district policy that they want chilled water or what? Because it's not a code requirement.
No, I don't know. I don't know if we've had any discussion at the board level about whether it's chilled or not. But I can tell you at the PE shelters, you definitely want that to be chilled water because those kids are out there doing PE, and that water can get pretty warm out there.
And with regards to the water fountains, it's usually 2 electrical outlets, right? Because the one actually needs the pump because the water pressure of the water fountain isn't necessarily strong enough, really, on where you are. So I think there are two outlets because there is a pump in the water fountain as well as the chiller. Isn't that correct?
And he's looking at you, Mr. Electrical Engineer.
Me?
Yeah.
I believe that was only a single outlet.
Yeah.
Yeah, single outlet for
More often than
decades.
a lot of the ones, when we do our bottle filler ones, those do have pumps built into them for obvious reasons. You're trying to push the water up the pipe.
Okay, water pressure would do that. You can have a water pipe in that wall going vertical and the water's going to get up there.
Yeah.
Without a pump. All right. I mean, it's just a consideration because, obviously the code has now made it more complicated. Now we have 2 outlets to get put in. Now, if it gets forgotten, now we end up with another $30,000 change order.
My recommendation is go with the GFI breakers
The way they're doing it.
in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Or to put it in, and you hide the receptacle and you don't have to worry about kids getting to it.
Right. All right. We didn't give any questions for Dave. Any other comments for Mr. Dolan about the in-progress work? All right, follow up. Anything on that anyone has?
Something I wanted to bring to your attention. 2 things, Mr. Cheshire, you brought up last month about.
Yeah, the one item that we didn't bring back after we had received.
Right. Yeah, so it was an item that was brought up in the May meeting. I did send this information out after the meeting.
Right.
And then the other one was, you had mentioned about, you weren't notified on the Manatee Elementary project.
Yep. Mr. Porter brought that one up, but I don't think I was either. Or I don't recall. Neither one of us recalled it.
Okay.
I see your hand.
So actually, the agenda item for last month was the first amendment to the CMARS contract. It wasn't the actual invitation for bid.
Right.
Initial. That was actually done back in early 2023. And those invitations were sent out and in fact, Simon participated.
Good. So there wasn't anything missed. Good. Okay. Move along here.
Talk about number 4. Dave.
That's a question for you guys. We actually have Chief Mooney is on here.
I don't know if we're going to have time to do that, plus Mr. Sanchez's presentation and discussion about.
Well, it was one of Mr. Gelfan's issues too. And
I'd rather wait for Mr. Gelfand to be part of the meeting for that.
I'm sorry, Chief, and if that's okay, we'll see if we can do this again.
Yep.
Let's put this on the beginning of the next meeting so that the chief knows that we'll do it, and then chief can go back to work.
She's a little bit.
Yeah, the only issue with that is we try to get the voting items done early for when CORC members have.
I don't think that'll be a real long discussion. I mean, all we're looking for, I think, is to know that we've got a qualified plan review person to really catch 90% of the things that we're seeing after the fact.
Yes.
Basically doing plan review 3D when the building's done. So.
Okay. if that's okay,
Yes.
we'll defer.
Yeah, we'll
And
defer that.
thanks, Chief and DC Snow. We will certainly line you up for the next one, and we'll get you a time-specific appointment.
And I would say next time, staff, let us know that you've got, important staff member on hold waiting for that. We would have just readjusted the agenda. Because I didn't think a follow-up comment meant that you were going to have somebody actually talk about it. If we knew that, we could have bumped it at the beginning of the meeting.
Well, my apologies. I will certainly do that in the future if we have a specific person to present. Because yes, absolutely.
We've always done that. Like when food services used to come to us, it's like, okay, get them in first. Let them get back to work. That way we know they're done and they're out. They're not waiting the whole meeting to be heard.
We'll certainly do so.
Okay. All right. I guess we're down to a discussion item for local preference. Yep. Mr. Sanchez.
Okay, I'm up. So this has been probably a long overdue discussion, right? This was requested a while ago. You can go to the next slide. So I'll take as much or as little time as you guys want on this. So the agenda, just some things I want to cover during this presentation are, what the purpose of this is, some of the pros and cons of a local preference, what the regulatory review shows, what some other school districts are doing, the different types of contracts that we have, and the current state of our CCNA solicitations, and then some options going forward. And I just listed a few. And then the map is really just for reference there. There's different definitions. We talk about MSAs and CSAs. Just wanted to let you guys know what those are. So the combined statistical area is all those, I think that's 8 different counties where the MSA is really just the 3, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. Next. So what's the purpose? Really, CORC has asked us to discuss this issue about local preferences. In addition to that, a few contractors, effectively a few architects mostly have asked us to look at this issue about local preference. And the timing is good too, because we're asking voters on November 5th to approve another half-cent sales tax. So it makes sense for us to have this conversation at this point as well. I do want to point out, what the second paragraph points out really is that we're looking at RFQs or qualifications or based proposals. That's not RFQs, but RFPs versus invitations to bids. So we're primarily focused on those, the CM at risk and architects is what we're looking at. So just to list some of the pros and cons. Some of these things were shared by CORC members with us, and I didn't disagree in terms of the pros. Boost the local economy, utilizes local businesses, employees, local residents. We find that more local contractors use local residents, generates local tax revenue, which supports the school district. Obviously, you spend money here. We generate a lot of revenue from sales tax, which then turns back into other projects. Supports local residents who pay local taxes for projects. Local firms are closer to proximity, so they have to provide faster service, avoid consultant travel expenses. If they're coming from outside, they somehow work their expenses into the bills. And then local firms may be more invested if they have kids in the school district or grandkids in the school district, they may be a little bit more invested. Some of the cons are potentially limit project funding flexibility. As we're going to talk about in a few minutes, there's some federal restrictions that prevent us from having local preferences. And we have to make sure that we didn't have those conflicts in our contracts and in the way that we fund projects. Reduce competition, which could result in higher fees if we turn off firms who from outside of our county. We could possibly turn some off, and then that can possibly result in higher prices, especially if only the local firms that they feel like they're only competing with each other, they may in turn raise their fees. Encourages retaliation from other jurisdictions. We're going to see that there's some other school districts that don't have local preferences, and by us increasing our local preference, we could in turn encourage other school districts to do the same thing, which could hurt our local firms' ability to do work outside of Palm Beach County. Possibility of not selecting the most qualified firm. This is if those points for local preferences are very high, there's a chance that you can end up selecting a firm that may be local, but is not necessarily best for this particular project. So you may pick a local firm who's great in building condos, whereas the outside firm may be better at building schools or whatever the type of project it is. The cost for administering, I'm going to take my time going to Dorothy.
Sorry.
Cost for administering until somebody rushes me. Cost for administering enforcing the preference. So if we add more complexity to the criteria, there's more complexity to enforcing it. Somebody's got to check on whatever the criteria is. So that has to happen. And then there's increased risk of protest. So again, the more complex we make it, the more protests we may have. We go to the next one. So what I'm trying to do in the next two slides is really answer the question, what problem are we trying to solve, right? So or is there a problem that we're trying to solve? So we looked at both the architect awards, contract awards, and the CM at risk contract awards. And I got this information from construction purchasing. We looked at since fiscal year 2017, which is about when the current referendum started. Current referendum started actually in January of 2017, passed in 2016, the revenue started coming in 2017. So this is halfway into the year. Our fiscal year starts in July. So this incorporates practically all of the referendum. And we looked at the individual awards as well as the CM at risk or the continuing contracts, CM at risk and architects. So incorporates both those pools of firms. So on the architect basis, approximately 70.5%, pretty close, 70.5% of the work is being done by, has been awarded to Palm Beach County architectural firms. 22, almost 23 for Miami, and about, almost less than 7% for Broward firms. And I put the note there, this is based on local business tax receipts because that is what our criteria is for determining what is local. So you have to, you qualify, if you qualify for local business tax receipt, your number is included in there. And we could talk about that criteria in a little while as well. Go ahead, next one. On the CM side, actually the number is pretty much the same. About 70% of the CM work has gone to local firms. Miami firms got less than 5%, and then Broward firms have gotten a little less than 25%. So again, are we doing a good job if you figure 70% is a pretty sizable number? Next. So just looking at some of the regulatory issues. So first we look at the federal law. All right, so just now I'm going to read the slides to you, but basically what this is telling us is that we can do evaluations, but this can only apply to architectural and engineering services. Those are the only time that you can use geographic location as part of the criteria is when you're doing architectural and engineering services. That's not to say you can use, it's not architectural engineering firms, because sometimes architectural engineering firms do services outside of architectural engineering. It has to be specifically architectural engineering services that they could have. So other than that, it's prohibited to use location.
That's only if you're getting federal funding, correct?
That's right. And if we plan to ever use our contracts for any kind of FEMA reimbursement type related projects as well, then that will apply as well.
But we said we're never going to have a hurricane, so we're not going to.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, we're never going to have a hurricane.
But most of our typical RFPs are just our straight tax base paying for it.
Most of them are, yes.
Yeah.
We don't get a lot of federal funding.
Right, that's what I thought. Okay.
So also looking at the FEMA requirements more specifically, so that when they talk about when we can use qualifications-based elections, it's really on for opportunities where we're not bidding the project. So we cannot, again, we can only use architectural engineering services for these qualifications-based elections. Otherwise, price has to be determination. All right. Now, turning to the state. So this is, everybody's familiar with CCNA. And I just wanted to point out what the language in the CCNA says, that that we shall consider such factors as one of those factors is location. And you'll see later on that we do use location. And location can mean a couple of different things. There's some options. Location can mean Palm Beach County, Miami-Dade County, Broward County, or it can mean distance from the site. And we'll see a little while that one of the other school districts uses distance from the site versus the county. Next. So just this past year, this law was changed. 255 was changed. Previously, the state said this has gone through a couple of different macerations, actually, it's this law. This law originally said that any state-funded project, you couldn't restrict firms from outside of a geographic area from participating. And then they changed it to say any project that's partially funded by the state couldn't have any geographic restrictions. And now they're saying that any project that's funded either locally or by the state cannot have any geographic restrictions. So, fortunately, we don't do this. Well, unfortunately, we don't do it. I don't know to put a qualifier on it. We did not. This is really for set-asides. So, I'll give you an example. So, Miami-Dade County has a county-based enterprise program, and only firms, not I'm talking about the county, not the school district, but the county, has a CBE program. And in order to be a CBE, certified as a CBE, you have to be within Broward County. And they have solicitations that are only for CBEs. That's quote unquote a set aside, right? So only CBEs are competing against each other. We have an SBE program, which you have to be within the 3 counties to be an SBE, but we don't have solicitations where only SBEs can compete on those projects. So we don't have set asides. So this law does not directly impact us in the sense that, because we're not currently doing set asides at this point. All right, so we asked, the construction person went out and asked some of the other school districts about what they're doing. We didn't get a response back from Martin County, but maybe some of the contractors who do work with Martin could tell us about what they did. But Broward does not have for the designers or the contractors, they do not use location as part of their criteria. Miami-Dade School District, and the numbers, they represent the percentage of the points that their location counts towards the total. Because every school district has a different number of points. We have 165 points, somebody has 100 points, somebody has 125 points. So I wanted to demonstrate what percentage of the points the location represents. So for Miami-Dade, 8% of the points are towards location. And you can see in the notes that if you're in Miami-Dade County, you can get 10 points. If you're in Broward or Monroe County, you can get 5 points. If you're in Broward, Monroe, or Palm Beach, you get 5 points. If you're anywhere in the state of Florida, you get 2 points towards that criteria. For CMRs, the points represent 3.5% of the total points, and it's distance from the site. So if you're within 30 miles of the project site, you can get 5 points. You get 3 points if you're between 30 and 50 miles, and you get 1 point between 50 miles and 50 and 100 miles. Like I said, Martin County, we don't have the information on. St. Lucie does not have any criteria on we looked at the continuing service agreement, but they didn't have any location. On the CMR ones, it represents 5% of their points for St. Lucie, Martin, Indian River, and Okeechobee, which are, I guess, the counties that are adjacent to them. We're just one county away from them. So I wanted to look at some of the other ones. The ones in blue are not directly adjacent to us or related to us, but I wanted to include some just for knowledge, for your information. So Charlotte County, 22% of their design and construction refers to location, and they specifically talk about location of key personnel. So it's not just where the office is located, but where the personnel who are assigned to the project are. Hillsborough doesn't have any qualification. We compare ourselves a lot to Hillsborough because they're very similar size to us. Orange County is a little bit larger than us, and they, in each case, is 10% for the design and CMR. And they use their statistical area as well for counties up there closest to them. And they require that it has to be 5 or more years there. We don't have a timeline on ours. right? So it's, if you have a local business tax receipt, if you see a project on that list that Dave showed you earlier that you want to go after in December, and you don't have a local business tax receipt today, you can get one tomorrow, and you can qualify for those points that you get for us. So that's something that we might want to consider if you want to add a time frame to that as well. Next.
You don't want to do business at Martin anyway.
Well, the business Martin. Okay. Nice people, I'm sure, up there. All right, so just looking at different types of contracts. So we have professional services contracts, which I talked about as CCNA. So on the architect engineers, we have the project-specific ones and we have continuing contracts, right? Project-specific ones, you know, so you take Wimbrook or, you know, the new West Acres area school, you don't really want to use those for a federal project anyway. You should really focus on the continuing contracts. And I put it in on the bluish color there because the federal government, as I pointed out earlier, does allow for you to use local criteria. So you can technically use the RFPs, what we have for continuing contracts for architects and engineers. As I pointed out earlier, on the construction management at risk, those services, construction management risk services, you cannot use a qualifications base and use for a federal project. So it's kind of out of the running for us. On the construction, same thing. When you have a project specific contract, if you hire we're going to be proposing we hire Bullhead Construction to do a roofing project for us. That's a project specific one. You don't necessarily want to use that same contract for a federal project. So I didn't include, those are not really for consideration. But we have a bunch of term contracts. We have term contracts for general contracting, glass, plumbing, all those things that you see down there. We have these term contracts where these contractors are on a list for us, a list of approved contractors, and then we ask them to bid against each other for a specific project, and then we could utilize their service to do whatever that we need to do. Those contracts are all being modified, if they haven't been already, to include the latest FEMA language. They already included FEMA language, but we update it whenever the FEMA requirements change so that we can use them both for our purposes, and if we need to, we can use those for FEMA related for hurricane related projects. So those are green and we can use those as well. So we have the option to use the CM, we have the architect for continuing contracts, and we have the option to use the term contracts for construction. Those are the two options that we have. So what does our current solicitations say for our design solicitations? And you can see that you guys have seen this if you served on the selection committee before. We have 6 categories for design services. Criteria number 5 is for business location, and that's 2 points. It represents 1.6% of the total points. So it doesn't really have a significant impact, but some of our selections are pretty close. It's enough to make a difference on some cases, but it's not a huge difference. Again, I wasn't here when we decided to put the 2 points in there, but if we wanted to, change it to some other number, again, you got to think about how that affects the other ones, because it makes, anytime you increase that, if you increase one number, it diminishes the amount that the other ones represent in the solicitation. All right, go to the next one. And this one just basically tells you how you qualify for that. As I mentioned, it's 2 points. And if you have a business tax receipt, well, you could be anywhere from Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade qualify for it with a local business tax receipt. And then it says that you have to have evidence of a business location within Palm Beach, Broward, or Miami-Dade. Those are the only requirements that we have in order to qualify for that. So these numbers make up that 70%, which I talked about earlier. Thanks.
So for businesses in Martin County, they can't get a business tax receipt in Palm Beach?
They cannot.
Yeah, but my issue with all of that has been, you could rent a little executive suite and get a business tax receipt, and nobody is even in the office, and yet that would qualify under this.
And we could talk about, and those might talk about the options. We could talk about how if we want to change any of that. So just the same information for the construction management at risk. Here we have 7 criteria for it. It represents, the 2 points represents 1.21% of the total points. And the next slide looks good, very similar to the one previous to this one, which was the criteria. Is anybody in Palm Beach, Broward or Miami-Dade can qualify for those 2 points with the local business tax receipt. So what are some of the options? Number one is, do nothing, right? If the opinion is that the Palm Beach County firms are currently getting adequate percentage of the contracts, again, 70 and 70 for design and CM at risk, change the scoring criteria to be eligible for local business location points. So, is it something more than just the local business tax receipt? Should it be business tax receipt, office, number of people, all that kind of stuff? Number three is differentiate the business location points for Palm Beach County firms from Broward and Miami-Dade. Right now, if you're anywhere in those 3 counties, you can get those 2 points. In addition, these are not mutually exclusive. Create a separate CM at risk contract for FEMA-related projects. That one, again, it's challenging. I don't even know if we could qualify for that. I should really say for federal-related projects, not necessarily FEMA, because FEMA is more restrictive even than the other federal projects. And like I said, there's other things we could look at, but those are kind of the main topics of discussion. What I will say though is if it's the recommendation from CORC for us to continue to look further or do something additional to this, that I would like to give some of the industry representatives opportunity to weigh in on it as well. We have a couple associations, AGC, ABC, who may want to weigh in. The AIA may want to weigh in as well. I would recommend that before we go any further, that we make sure we give them opportunity to provide their feedback too.
I guess I'd like to see what the specs or the stats might be from like 2021 to 2024. I felt just on recent selection committees that it was more out-of-county firms that were being awarded than maybe back to 2017. So, my opinion would be if we have 70% in both categories that are going to Palm Beach County firms, there's no change needed. But that hasn't been my perception of selection committee awards.
Well, when you say out of county, are you referring to their offices in Broward or Miami-Dade?
Yeah, not in Palm Beach.
Right, so they still have a local business tax receipt for Palm Beach County. So that's why they're getting the points for that.
So even if they only have
because that's our criteria.
10 by 10 little office here somewhere and it's not even manned.
That's our criteria right now.
Yeah, David, on the business tax receipts, I looked at this a long time ago, so maybe things have changed, but I have a couple thoughts on it. Exactly. Anybody can get a business tax receipt in Palm Beach County. If you have a little office, that's all you need, one person there. Pay $100, whatever it is, you can get a business tax receipt. If you can go back to slide, I think it was 11. As far as I know, and like I say, I haven't checked in a while, as far as I know, it's a requirement. If you're going to do business in Palm Beach County, you have to have a business tax receipt. That's not the right one. The one where we talked about the business tax receipts, 5 and 6, I guess.
Further down then.
Page 5, I think.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah, look at page 5. So I'm not sure where this 70% came from. How you did the data to come up with this 70%, but
I'll show you the data too behind it, if you want to.
If you have a firm that doesn't have a business tax receipt in Palm Beach County, they can't work here.
No,
I think.
You go to that slide.
My guess is they have business tax receipts, but it goes back to the same issue where, they set up an office someplace, nobody's even in it.
No, this says they don't have one.
Yeah, they don't have I don't think they don't have a Palm Beach County. Correct me if I'm wrong, Barbara. They don't have a Palm Beach County. So this table shows you where the firms are located based upon how they fit into that chart. So column B is Palm Beach, column C is Broward, and column D is Miami. So this is the architects. So you can see how they're attributed to that table.
I just ask you to look at that because that's my recollection is you have to have one. So I don't think the criteria should have anything to do with business tax receipt. You need to define what local means to us. And that could be principal place of business has to be in Palm Beach County. That's pretty stringent, but you could have that. Or you could have a separate office in Palm Beach County where the majority of the work will be done. A substantial portion of the work will be done out of the workers, the management that are located in the office in Palm Beach County. And you can give different points for those. If your principal place of business is in Palm Beach County, you can get 10 points. If you have a substantial office in Palm Beach County where the work is actually going to be done, you can get 5 points. So you need to look at your definition of local, I think. And then if you could go to, I think it's slide 11. Dorothy, if you could go to that. Question on how the other counties do it. Now, I know for a fact that Broward has a local preference ordinance, Broward County. Now, for some reason, the school district has an exemption from that. I'm not aware of that. But they have a pretty substantial local preference code where it's not only CM selections and architect selections, it's contractors, instruction to bid, or invitation to bids, hard bids. They give a hefty preference to local bidders, contractors.
CBEs, right?
Sorry?
CBEs, they have county business enterprises.
I don't know what that is.
That's what it's called.
Yeah, okay.
In there.
So I'd look at that again with Broward, but I'm pretty sure you have to have a principal place of business in Broward to get points.
For the county.
For the
And this-
county.
this school district.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, so I ask you to look at that as well. I think that's it.
Any suggestions, recommendations? I mean,
Yeah, they need to come back with answers to those questions, I think. And I'd like to have at least 10% of the points for selection be based on whatever local criteria we come up with. The 2 points that we have now is nothing. I mean, it's never that close.
yeah, but I guess I also look at, let's say we got a school being built in Boca. Somebody in Deerfield Beach is going to be bicycle distance from the school as opposed to a firm that might be out of Tequesta.
Goes back to, what's your point here? My point is the money needs to be spent in Palm Beach County. You hire a contractor in Palm Beach County, he's going to hire a painter who's a local Palm Beach County firm. He's going to buy paint in Palm Beach County, and all that money gets recirculated over 10 times and comes back to the school district as a part of sales tax. Let's say they have a better relationship with Palm Beach County subcontractors and subconsultants. You get somebody from what happened last month or a month ago, where we have a Miami-Dade CM. All of his bidders came from Miami-Dade. He didn't get any bids from Palm Beach County firms. That's just not right, in my opinion.
So I guess, are you hearing what to come back with?
Yeah, I think Virginia has a hand up.
Oh, Virginia.
Yes, thank you for noticing. I had like three points. First, I guess there's no way to figure out how many of our businesses get hired in these other counties. Is there?
No.
I mean, we're doing 70% here and the rest somewhere else. Do we know how Miami and Broward are hiring our firms? Is it like equal?
I don't know. I wouldn't say it's impossible to do. It's just a lot of work.
Okay. Well, that was just one issue. The other two were trying to understand, for you to clarify what federal funds we receive for construction or whatever, other than FEMA, because you discounted some of these types of contracts based on federal law, but do we get any federal funds for these?
Well, Leanne, you want to chime in on any of that?
Yeah, I can. The biggest concern is FEMA. We do have federal funds occasionally, and it's not that often, honestly. With the last time we had it for construction projects, when we did the Q-SCIB projects that were funded from the Air Stimulus Program in 2010. So it's been a long time since we've done that. it pops up with no warning when there's federal funds. I mean, school districts all over the state are dealing with it right now. If they used the ESSER funds for maintenance or construction, it's federal funds. And they didn't even know it was happening, and they're having to fix things after the fact, and they're having all kinds of issues. So we don't always know when we're getting federal funds. And I know one of the issues that we've got with FEMA is that while we may not be using the contractor that we awarded for a big construction project, the contracts that we use for concrete and all our other contracts may be used with FEMA at any time. So, you know, having everything set in place to follow the federal guidelines is really helpful. So we don't need to have multiple contracts for the same type of work. But when you're talking about a school construction project, hopefully we know if it's federal funds or not. I really did get out of a meeting with a lot of small school districts that are building schools that did not know they were getting federal funds until after they'd started. And they're dealing with nightmare situations in those districts. Hopefully that would not happen to us. Those are small districts. So typically we would know on a construction project, but all the other disciplines and the contracts like under the 2 million and under 4 million, those smaller contracts could be used on work that we would need to do for FEMA. So having that language in there is very helpful, but I'm not purchasing. So I'm getting outside my wheelhouse when I'm talking here, and Barbara may want to chime in, or we could have Darcy come in and talk about that later.
I just think it's important enough for the majority, 90%, 95% of what we build is all our money. It's not federal money. So if we needed 2 contracts to make sure that we can keep as much money within the county as possible, I think that's important.
The concern you've got is we don't know when the hurricane's coming. If we had damage with the last hurricane that we had to deal with schools, we would not have time to rebid and come up with new contracts for all the different disciplines that we would need to do. We want to have those contracts already in place. So that would mean doing 2 contracts for all the different components of buildings. And that's a lot of work. I mean, that's my 2 cents, which, you know, it's valued at 2 cents. Not my area of expertise again. Oh, and Darcy is on the call, so I don't know, Darcy, if I misspoke there.
No, I just wanted to chime in and build on that. That would be completely impossible. I mean, you know, we could do contracts for federal projects if we knew, but to your point, a lot of times we don't know that. So these term contracts that are in place for concrete or demolition, when those are put in place, those are the ones that we rely on going back to for FEMA reimbursement. So, you know, it would be impossible to replicate 2 sets of contracts, the volume of work, and it's not something I would want to see us do, because we need them across the board for many different things, and we want to get FEMA reimbursement on those.
So is that basically saying we can't do local preference?
Local preference is not part of the district's policy right now. I think we've brought that back to the committee several times, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I want to say we can't do local preference. We could do the location criteria that we currently have in our CCNA solicitations. We can do. That's legal.
We follow SRF and we do that. So we're in compliance, but we don't have an official local preference policy.
Yeah, I misspoke. I just meant, I want to make sure we can still do what we're doing. And if we want to increase the points for that purpose and define what really defines a local business, a Palm Beach County business, I just, you know, it'd be nice if we can do that and not have double work and double contracts.
I had one other question.
Yes, Virginia.
If you could go back to the state statute, I didn't quite understand why it did not apply to us. You said,
That's the second one.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah, because we don't currently do set-asides. And set-asides would mean that only certain bidders, only certain firms could bid on that work. So what the state prohibits us from doing, like I said, is those kind of things. So what the state wants to do is in this law is trying to maximize competition is what they're trying to do. They're trying to say if you're from anywhere in the state of Florida, if you're in Tallahassee or Jacksonville, wherever the case may be, as long as you have a license, you should be able to bid on a project that's in Palm Beach County. So we don't currently prohibit any firm from bidding on our projects. So it does, that's what I'm saying. It applies to us, but it doesn't change anything that we're doing today because we don't.
I see. So when you put the bids out, they go out statewide. Somebody can bid, but when the selection comes up, they get, if they're local, they get a lousy 2 points.
Oh, no. Two different things. We're talking RFPs versus invitations to bids. This applies really to an invitation to bid. So on an invitation to bid, that's open to anybody in the state, out of the state, wherever it is, as long as you can provide the lowest price, you can win the project. There's no preferences, local preferences that apply to that today. And I don't think anybody's proposing that maybe somebody is proposing that we apply a local criteria to that, but we don't. It's simply the lowest price. Now you have to be pre-qualified if it's over a certain dollar amount. So that's a limiting factor, but that doesn't limit where you locate it.
There are no points applied for it.
No points.
Correct? But if the lowest bidder and the second lowest bidder are within 5% of the bid price, and the second lowest bidder is SBE, and I'm sorry, I'm misspeaking. I'm talking about SBE. I'm sorry, strike that from the record.
No, it doesn't. It's not out of context because in order to be an SBE, you have to be Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami.
This is true. So
it does.
Certainly, yes.
Yeah, so
you are applying a 5%.
Apply a local preference in the sense that you have to be one of those counties. However, that doesn't stop somebody from, like I said, Orange County, whatever it is, from bidding on the project, though.
Correct.
Which would violate the law.
John Cheshire.
Yeah, a couple things. First one, what Barbara was saying, that is the way Broward does it. I think they give 5% of the points if you're a local contractor.
They do.
And then they also, if a non-local contractor is low and the second bidder is within the county, within 5%, they give him a chance to match that first place, the lowest bidder.
That is
another 5%.
Broward Schools does it.
Sorry?
That is how Broward Schools does it.
Oh, they do?
They do RFPs, which is based on price and other factors. So they consider your qualifications plus your price at the time of the bid proposal. They do apply that 5%.
And the other thing on the FEMA problem, I haven't been there in a while, but the county, it's not impossible to do. The county does have separate contractors and consultants, I believe, for FEMA. And so it is possible to do. And secondly, if you wanted to, you could always piggyback off of those contracts instead of having your own.
If their contract is written that it's piggybackable, then we can.
The challenge we have with the FEMA version, because I've already asked, can we do an RFP that awards 2 sets of contracts for one RFP? Because I'd say, well, can I award a FEMA and a non-FEMA? Because 95, 98, 99% of the contracts will be non-FEMA. But I want the same guy. Otherwise, we won't get anyone who will bid on the FEMA contract.
Yeah.
It's not it's rarely ever used.
Well, isn't the issue on a school that's under construction that may have FEMA problems? Because you'd want that contractor to go back and fix things up and then they have to apply to FEMA to get paid. It's not under an existing school like Palm Beach Gardens High School. It's already existing. If we have storm damage, we have continuing contracts with storm damage repair contractors. Okay, so let those contracts be FEMA. But it's not like the CM that would be going in to necessarily do that work. Like Acreage, the West Acreage School, if that had tornado damage, it'd be the same as CM that we would be hiring or paying extra to fix up the damage. It wouldn't be a separate contractor.
I don't know if we'd be able to.
I don't think we would do that. I think we would use our FEMA contracts.
Reimbursement.
And
We would use our FEMA.
yeah.
Contract. So, and we may have to rebid it depending upon the amount of damage.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Where's Bill's risk coming?
I mean, that would seem nuts that we would not use Moss's building that job, I think, not use Moss.
Yeah.
We can't if we're
To
not going
put
to get
back up the
reimbursed.
tilt panels that got blown over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a mess.
And
It's a question. It's a good question.
And I think only when when you have a disaster like that, you're only allowed to do temporary repairs. You can't do permanent repairs. You have to bid out according to what I know of FEMA, which is not.
That's correct, Barbara.
Okay.
That's correct.
You have to bid out the work for the permanent repairs.
Right, but I think what we're really talking about, John, correct me if I'm wrong, in terms of your thoughts, is we're not looking at work that gets bid, we're looking at the RFP.
Right.
Not work that gets bid for a price.
Right.
It's really the RFP stuff.
Right.
You know, architects and contractors getting hired to design schools and do renovations. So with those projects, I don't know if you end up with a FEMA conflict or not.
With those projects or with those contracts?
Well, the RFPs, the RFP type projects, if that ends up having some type of FEMA
Yeah,
conflict.
because of the two federal references that I have said you can only use it for architectural and engineering services. So
They couldn't do CM.
you couldn't do CM.
Just a reminder, it's
Yeah.
11:15, and we still have to vote on your extension.
Oh, right.
11:30 meeting I had to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't we have an item that we have to vote on still?
Yeah, we got the waiver request.
We have some homework to do, so we'll bring back some.
All right, I guess bring some things back.
But it's Mr. Chester gave some ideas about what he thought the numbers should be around 10% of the total points. I don't know if anybody else had any thoughts about where they think the points should.
I think take a stab at that and come back with what you think, you know, a fair point arrangement would be. I agree with Mr. Cheshire that it would be nice if we spend the money here and it stays here as much as possible. Not all of it, but more than we have now, maybe.
More than 10, what is 70%? Well, it's 70% qualified, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I don't know if that's kind of a real number. I think we're using the wrong basis.
Okay.
I want to thank you, Mr. Sanchez. That was a lot of work you did, and it was very informational. Thank you.
My pleasure, and also Barbara helped out tremendously.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. All right, discussion item, approval of minutes. Anyone with issues on the minutes? All right, minutes are then accepted. I don't see it on the agenda for the waiver.
Don't either.
Is it on there? I didn't see it
It
on
may
there.
not be on that agenda. Is it on?
It was on board docs.
Okay,
I move that we request move that we request the waiver.
Do we
for
still
the
have,
chair.
do we still have a quorum?
we have a
Yes,
quorum.
we do.
Well, Helco left. Still good?
Bill left, Michael left, but yes, we still have a quorum.
Okay. So there's a motion to send to the board a request to allow a waiver of the chair term limits for CORC. Virginia's got a motion. We need a second on that.
I'll second
Second by Mike Guida.
And for our newest member, you might want to give her a little explanation.
Oh, yeah. You explain your own story.
Yes. As an explanation for anyone who doesn't know, the core policy says that the chair is limited, term limited to, I think it's 4 years. Yeah, I think it was 4 years. It's either 3 or 4 years. However, a waiver can be requested to the board, done within 60 days prior to the election of officers for CORC. And that happens the end of the January meeting. And so previously CORC has wanted me to have the opportunity to still run for chair. It's not a guaranteed that it will happen. But the board has to grant that waiver to allow CORC to waive the chair term limits. So that is what the motion and the vote will be on the floor. Any other questions, comments on that? Paulus Dorothy, please.
Okay, David Porter,
Yes.
John Cheshire,
Yes.
Michael Guida,
Yes.
Tom Berger,
Yes.
Chadrick McCoy, Virginia Ferris,
Yes.
Francesca Warnish.
Yes.
That still gives us 6 votes, so we're still.
Okay.
Congratulations.
It just means I have the opportunity that, yeah, the committee has the opportunity to say yes or no. All right, anything else by anyone?
Did we approve the meeting?
Yeah, we did. Minutes are fine. I offered up. Nobody had any objections. All right, if nothing else, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Good meeting.
Thank you.
Welcome, Francesca. It's nice to have another woman again.
Thanks.
How the heck are you?